When I realized I was the villainess, I was about to force myself on my nominal crown prince brother. Imperial sister, you mustn't. The gentle and dignified crown prince lay helplessly on the couch, his hands bound by a chain, looking utterly pitiful. Yet even as he was humiliated by his own sister, he remained calm and composed, only gazing at me with a hint of helplessness in his eyes. My lust flared up instantly, and with a growl, I prepared to pounce on him. At that very moment, my vision suddenly went black, and my consciousness plunged into nothingness in an instant. My beastly act was cut short halfway through. In my dazed state, I caught sight of a book titled Transmigration. All the handsome men are at my feet. In the story, I was a vicious supporting female character, madly infatuated with my imperial brother, Shinsu. To possess him, I resorted to drugging, threats, imprisonment, leaving no means untried. In the end, the truth came to light. My reputation was ruined, and I was condemned by everyone. The birth mother of the crown prince, the empress herself, sent me to the afterlife with a white silk scarf. Shinsu is the first male lead in this love polygon novel. He belongs solely to the time-traveling heroine, Feng Qingchang, and any other woman who dares to covet him will meet a terrible fate. I was the most stubborn one among them. Other female supporting characters at most harbored secret affections or gave up after their confessions were rejected. Only me, despite Shinsu's countless rejections, still harbors unyielding ulterior motives. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. I didn't believe it at first, but considering the recent oddities of Feng Qingchang, the illegitimate daughter of the Feng family, I had no choice but to believe. Ever since Feng Qingchang fell into the water a month ago, her temperament has drastically changed. She keeps shouting about equality for all and gender equality, and even when meeting the emperor, she stands straight and refuses to kneel, disregarding the boundaries between men and women. Today she rides a horse with the second son of the Li family, and tomorrow she spends the entire night alone in a room with the heir of the Morong family. Although the kingdom of Qisong has an open-minded culture and imposes relatively fewer restrictions on women compared to the other two nations, it is still not this liberal. Feng Qingchang's behavior is far too unconventional and rebellious, yet it is precisely such a rebellious woman who is pursued by almost all the noble young men in Shengjing. Everything adds up, leaving me no choice but to believe it. My consciousness returned to clarity, and the moment I looked up, I met Shinsu's worried gaze. What happened just now? Are you feeling unwell somewhere? This is my imperial brother. Even after I nearly forced myself upon him, he still cares for me as always. Truly, he is as radiant as the moon and as gentle as water. Truly the man of my dreams. I was just about to lift my chin proudly when the image of myself hanging by a white silk scarf flashed before my eyes, pale-faced, with a long protruding tongue, ugly and terrifying, horrifying, absolutely horrifying. I suddenly shivered involuntarily. No, I can't compete with the female lead for a man. Forgive me, imperial brother. I scrambled over to unlock the chains on Shinsu's hands. Blame me for being momentarily blinded by lust. I was so bewitched that I dared to commit such an act of disrespect toward you. Please forgive me, imperial brother. I made a gesture as if to kneel, but Shinsu grabbed my hand to stop me, smiling gently. When has your imperial brother ever blamed you? Having said this, he suddenly paused, his eyes lowering slightly, his long lashes brushing against his eyelids. After a moment of silence, he continued, but, Shinsu's voice was slightly hoarse, though we are not blood siblings, the world does not know this. In the eyes of the world, we are kin, and we must not commit acts of incest. MHM. I nodded frantically like a chick pecking at rice, promising, brother, rest assured, I will never do this again. Shinsu looked at me, hesitating to speak, and after a long while, sighed silently. I believe you, but the expression on your face doesn't look like you believe me at all. But I can't blame Shinsu. After all, this isn't the first time I've done this. Every time I promise it won't happen again. Yet the next time, I still end up imprisoning or drugging as usual. If I were him, I wouldn't believe it either. The only way is to prove my sincerity through actions. leaving the Eastern Palace, I strolled leisurely along the corridor. Tossing the chain in my hand, the golden links shimmered in the sunlight. To be honest, the craftsmanship of this chain is truly excellent, beautiful, smooth, and with a great texture. It actually makes a nice piece of jewelry. Little did I know at the time that in the near future, Shinsu would use this gold chain to shackle my ankle, turning it into the perfect tool to imprison me. After that, I did my best to avoid Shinsu, whereas I used to visit the Eastern Palace 800 times a day. Now I didn't go even once. My personal maid, Song Shue, was utterly shocked. In the Haitang Hall, Song Shue was tying up my hair while curiously asking, "Has your highness quarreled with the crown prince?" Nothing of the sort. My royal brother and I are on the best of terms. How could we possibly quarrel, then? Could it be that your highness is? After a moment of silence, Song Shue suddenly grew excited. "Are you brewing an even grander, more meticulous plan? One that could take down the crown prince in a single move?" Because of my past exploits, Song Shue simply didn't believe I would change my ways and give up on Shinsu. Shinsu wouldn't believe it. Song Shue wouldn't believe it. Probably no one would believe it except for myself. Worrisome. Never in my wildest dreams did I expect that while I wasn't seeking out Shinsu, he would come looking for me instead. At that moment, he was sitting upright at the desk in my hall. From my angle, I could see his cold, pale, and strikingly handsome profile, his high nose bridge, long curled lashes, and the smooth yet profound outline of half his face, as if drawn with a single stroke, resembling the most intense ink wash in a traditional Chinese painting. His slender hand held a brush, writing something on the rice paper. I suddenly remembered the day I first forcibly kissed Shinsu. It was a sunny afternoon, after finishing lunch in the Eastern Palace. Shinsu dragged me to practice calligraphy. "Don't look at me, look at the characters." Shinsu lightly tapped my forehead with his knuckle, scolding me with a stern face. Oh, perhaps I was just born rebellious. The more he told me not to look, the more I wanted to. I stared even more blatantly at Shinsu, you could say without blinking. Shinsu was helpless. He said a few words, but I could barely hear them, both eyes fixed unwaveringly on those lips of moderate thickness as they parted and closed. Shinsu was extraordinarily handsome, his skin as white as snow, yet his lips were particularly crimson, as if stained with rouge. Luscious and enticing, stirring an unbearable itch in one's heart. I couldn't help but swallow hard, overwhelmed by the urge to offend him, yet the person before me was the most revered crown prince of Chisong Kingdom, and my nominal elder brother. I couldn't possibly offend him. I desperately tried to suppress the thoughts in my mind, silently reciting a mantra to clear my heart, but the more I restrained myself, the stronger the urge to offend Shinsu became. After a few breaths, I ultimately failed to resist and, with lightning speed, hooked my arm around Shinsu's neck and kissed him. The moment my lips touched his, a sigh of contentment escaped my heart. It felt far better than I had imagined, like kissing a snowflake on the verge of melting, or a pastry exuding the sweet fragrance of fruit, cool and sugary. Shinsu, however, seemed stunned by my sudden act of audacity, frozen for a long moment before remembering to push me away. He must have been genuinely startled, as it took him 2 or 3 attempts to finally shove me off. Shinsu slightly parted his lips, staring at me speechless for a long while. I licked my lips and threw myself into his arms again, eager to take further liberties with him. This time, however, he was prepared. Shinsu pressed 2 fingers against my lips, his earlobes flushed red, his eyelids slightly lowered, as if both embarrassed and annoyed. "Brother, don't be so stingy, let me kiss you again." I wrapped my arms around his waist, nuzzling my head against his chest, pleading coquettishly. "Shin Jiaojun." He rarely called me by my full name in such a serious tone. I looked up at him nonchalantly, blinking my eyes. "I am your elder brother, not by blood." "That won't do either." Shinsu's attitude was resolute. As the ancient saying goes, he lectured me for nearly half an hour before finally letting me leave. But it all went in one ear and out the other. I didn't take it seriously at all. Shinsu has always been a unique presence in my life. My birth mother was a concubine's daughter in the family, and even after entering the palace, She was merely a low-ranking concubine, unloved and passing away early. She died of illness when I was 8, at such a young age and deep within the palace walls. Without my mother's protection, my life was predictably miserable. Later, it was Shinsu who took pity on me and brought me to the Eastern Palace, where I finally lived a better life. He treated me extremely well, and was an exceptionally good person, gentle, noble, elegant, pure, wise, in my eyes. No beautiful word in this world would be too much when describing him. Later, by chance, I discovered that I was not the emperor's biological daughter. At that moment, I was at a loss. My first instinct was to tell Shinsu about it. After hearing me out, he fell silent for a while and then told me not to share it with anyone else. If others found out, I would surely die, but he promised to keep this secret for me. I was utterly moved and silently vowed to be good to Shinsu for the rest of my life. As the years passed, my admiration and reverence for him grew stronger, and with it, a desire called possession became increasingly intense. I had always thought it was merely a younger sister's admiration for her elder brother, but only now have I suddenly realized it was never that at all. What I feel for Shinsu is romantic love between a man and a woman. I like him, I want to have him. And Shinsu's years of doting on me have fostered in me a personality that demands instant gratification of my desires. After that forced kiss, I appeared to acknowledge my mistake, apologize, and reform, but in truth, the desire to pounce on him never faded for a single day. The opportunity that made me decide to drug Shinsu was an accident. That day, the sun was blazing, the weather was stifling, and the cicadas in the trees were screaming as if gone mad. I carried a plate of pastries, intending to offer him a taste. Imperial brother, pushing the door open, what met my eyes was a man's broad and fair back, with long, waterfall-like black hair cascading over the edge of the tub, droplets of water trickling down the smooth contours of his back. Like an ice lotus blooming in water, breathtakingly pure and indescribably beautiful, Shinsu was bathing. I should leave immediately, of course. That's exactly what I thought, as a younger sister. How could I possibly watch the emperor brother bathe? I tried to turn away. Damn it, my feet wouldn't move. I wanted to close my eyes. Damn it, my eyes refused to obey. How utterly wretched. Who's there? Shinsu sensed someone behind him, slightly turning his body as he spoke coldly. Amidst the misty steam, the man's superior figure was faintly visible, appearing and disappearing, utterly alluring. For a moment, I was completely entranced, and by the time I snapped out of it, Shinsu was no longer in the bathtub. He hastily draped an outer robe over himself and stood before me, looking down with a frown on his handsome brow. You, as if too embarrassed to speak, Shinsu took a long time without finishing her sentence. In the end, it dissolved into a soft sigh. Shinsu, next time you encounter such a situation, you should avoid it. If it were me, it wouldn't matter. The emperor wouldn't hold it against you, but if it were another man, that might not be the case. And your reputation could suffer. Got it memorized? Yeah, got it. I answered absent-mindedly, my eyes still fixed on him. To be precise, fixed on his chest, having just stepped out of the bath. Shinsu had only loosely thrown on a robe with a carelessly tied sash, exposing large areas of his pale, cool-toned chest. Lingering water droplets trailed down his slender neck before disappearing beneath the collar. I felt inexplicably parched. That very night, I had a dream. In the dream, I was sitting on Shinsu's lap. He held my waist tightly, his crimson lips brushing against my ear as he murmured slowly and softly, "Jade burner, ice mat, mandarin duck quilt, powder melts, fragrant sweat flows on the mountain pillow." Outside the curtain, the sound of a pulley, frowning brows, smiling face, startled, "Imperial brother." I was utterly shocked. How could the ever-proper and upright Shinsu utter such wanton poetry? Shinsu simply gazed at me with a smile, and after a moment, his fingers covered my lips, pressing gently. "Jiaojun, my heart delights in you too." My heart pounded wildly, and as I tried to speak, he suddenly kissed me. Then I was swept up in his arms, the world spinning as the bed curtains fell, filling the room with the bloom of spring. After waking from the dream, I lay on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling, unable to regain my senses for a long time. Shinsu, that name was like a tiny hook, tugging at my heart again and again, leaving me restless with an insatiable desire. I want him, I want him, I want him. For 16 years, I've never felt such an intense desire to possess someone or something. Since childhood, I've had little interest in most things. Even if there were a few I wanted, once obtained, they quickly lost their appeal, played with for a while and then forgotten. Only Shinsu has kept me awake at night, tossing and turning with longing. So, I decided to drug him. I had Song Shue fetch some Chun Fei Xiang for me. Chun Fei Xiang, to put it bluntly, is just an aphrodisiac. When Song Shue handed me the medicine, she hesitated. Princess, this isn't appropriate. What if the crown prince gets angry afterward? I curled my lips into a smile. Let him be angry. After all, my imperial brother dotes on me so much. He wouldn't kill me, would he? And even if it kills me, I'd accept it. As the saying goes, to die under the peony is to be a romantic ghost. I mixed the spring rouge fragrance into the tea Shinsu often drank and presented it to him. Royal brother, you've worked hard. Shinsu was pleased, setting aside the memorial in his hand to take the teacup. You've grown sensible, I giggled, watching as he raised the cup to his lips, my heart pounding with excitement. Suddenly, his hand holding the cup paused. I grew tense. Did he notice something that shouldn't be possible? Chun Fei Xiang is colorless and odorless. There's no way he could have detected it. Just as I was questioning my life choices, Shinsu downed the tea in one gulp. Done. I could no longer suppress my smile, the corners of my lips uncontrollably curving upward. Half a quarter hour later, Shinsu collapsed with a thud onto the desk. I wrapped my arms around his slender waist from behind, nuzzling my head against him, completely enveloped by the cold plum fragrance that clung to Shinsu. Imperial brother, I really like you. Brother, person, bed, dark room, everything is ready. But the awkward thing is, I don't really know much about intimate matters. The clothes are off, but I don't know what to do next. Tears welled up but refused to fall. I could only secretly fetch an erotic manual to learn on the spot and apply immediately. To make matters worse, I had barely grasped the basics when Shinsu woke up. Zhao Jun, what are you? Shinsu looked bewildered at the chains on his body. Then at me. At this point, what's done is done. I straightened my back and feigned composure, saying, isn't it obvious? I'm imprisoning you. Shinsu looked even more bewildered. Why would you imprison me? Of course, it's because I'm captivated by your beauty. I walked a few steps to the bedside, playfully lifting Shinsu's chin with a flirtatious demeanor, acting like a female rogue. Imperial brother's looks are unmatched in Shengjing, and his figure is top-notch. Countless young ladies have secretly fallen for you, so why should it be surprising that I like you too? Shinsu immediately frowned. We are siblings. No, impatiently. I covered his lips with mine. Brother and sister, brother and sister, brother and sister. We're not blood related, so what's there to mind? I initially didn't want to listen to his nonsense, but gradually, I got lost in that kiss, and I could clearly sense that Shinsu was also getting aroused. His narrow eyes showed a hint of daze, with unconcealed desire lurking deep in his pupils. Shinsui was also lost in this kiss. Shinsu happened to be at the age of 20 this year, an age when ordinary men should have already married and had children, let alone him being the current crown prince. But strangely, there wasn't a single woman by his side, no principal consort, no secondary consort, not even a concubine or maid. His asceticism made him seem almost otherworldly. Rumors even circulated that the crown prince had a penchant for male companionship or perhaps suffered from some hidden ailment. Such a man, pure and self-restrained like the moon in the sky, could also harbor the desires of an ordinary man. And all because of me. Realizing this, I couldn't help but feel a bit proud. But just then, Shinsu abruptly pushed me away. The effects of the medicine had worn off, and he regained his strength, easily breaking free from the chains. Why? I slumped at the foot of the bed, feeling deeply wronged. You clearly liked it too. Shinsu dressed while lowering his gaze, saying, we are siblings. We cannot commit acts that would bring chaos to the palace. I won't speak of today's matter, but there must not be a next time, in name only. I desperately threw myself onto him, clinging tightly. Besides, If you don't tell and I don't tell, no one will ever know. Imperial brother, I really like you so much. Won't you let me satisfy this craving? The response I received was a deafening silence. Shinsu gently pried open my fingers one by one, his movements tender yet filled with heartlessness. From this day forward, you are confined to your quarters for half a month. Reflect deeply on your actions. I ground my molars in frustration, glaring at him with resentment. Reflect, fine, I'll show you how I reflect. Half a month later, my reflection resulted in a new chain, based on the original gold chain. I reforged it with the special refined iron unique to Chisong Kingdom, beautiful and sturdy, ensuring Shinsu couldn't break free. This time, with the chain in place, Shinsu was on guard and refused to touch the food I offered. No amount of coaxing or trickery worked, and so, I could only watch helplessly as my stunningly handsome imperial brother paraded before me, yet remained utterly out of reach. What agony, blinded by lust. I concocted many sinister and despicable schemes. Thus began a period between Shinsu and me that could be described as he flees, I chase, he can't escape even with wings. It wasn't until recently, when I discovered I was actually a vicious supporting character, that I urgently stopped my pursuit. Even now, when I recall Shinsu's peerlessly handsome appearance, I still occasionally feel a pang of desire. Actually, I've successfully imprisoned Shinsu many times before, but somehow he always manages to escape at the last moment. Perhaps this is the destined fate of a supporting female character. No matter what, I can never have the male lead. How infuriating. Zhao Jun, a gentle male voice brought me back to reality. Shinsu was standing before me at some point, his gaze fixed intently on me. My eyes involuntarily drifted to his lips. It seemed he had just eaten something. His lips glistened with a moist sheen, like overripe red fruit on the verge of decay, exuding an alluring fragrance. I wanted to kiss them, but I took a deep breath, trying to suppress that urge, and asked him, "What does your highness need from me? Can't I come to see you without a reason?" Shinsu's cold voice carried a hint of loneliness. A strange feeling suddenly welled up in my heart. Shouldn't it be Shinsu avoiding me? Isn't he worried I might still use tricks to force him? Thinking this in my heart, I also asked it aloud. After hearing this, Shinsu was momentarily stunned, then laughed again. The light from outside the window filtered in, forming a halo that softened his deep-set eyes. "No matter what, you'll always be my sister. Nothing can affect the bond between us." He paused, then continued speaking. "So there's no need to avoid me everywhere." I didn't know how to respond, so I could only nod. Anyway, calculating the time. The female lead Feng Qingcheng is about to meet Shinsu. When that time comes, sparks will fly, and the moment they lay eyes on each other, I won't even need to hide. He won't see any woman other than the female lead. Shinsu is the most important person in my life. If being with Feng Qingcheng would make him happy, then I can let go and offer my blessings. Every 5 years, the nations hold a grand hunting tournament, rotating the location each time under the noble pretext of fostering goodwill among the countries. This time, it happens to be held in Chisong, where the female lead Feng Qingcheng will shine brilliantly at the welcoming banquet of the event. 2 male leads, Shinsu and the Ruran Prince Wuzer, simultaneously noticed her, thus successfully initiating a drama of 4 men vying for 1 woman. Each male lead wished to eliminate the other 3 to have Feng Qingcheng all to themselves. But Feng Qingcheng loved each of them and couldn't bear to hurt any, so after much struggle, the 4 men reached a consensus to share the woman they all adored. But in name, Shinsu was the legitimate consort. Feng Qingcheng had married Shinsu, making her the Empress of Chisong, while the other 3 men existed more like secret lovers. The 3 male leads also felt it was unfair. They had argued and made scenes, but to no avail. After all, Feng Qingcheng's favorite was Shinsu. A bitter feeling rose in my heart, and I instinctively glanced at Shinsu, who was seated diagonally in front of me to the right. The envoys from the 3 kingdoms had all arrived the day before, and today's banquet was held in their honor. In recent years, the emperor has begun delegating authority to Shinsu, which is why everything from the welcoming banquet to tomorrow's hunting expedition has been arranged by him. Seated at the center, He wore a moon-white robe embroidered with silver thread and subtle floral patterns, his posture as straight as a cypress, his hair was tied up with a jade crown, and a faint smile graced his brows and eyes, truly a picture of elegance and refinement, gentle as jade. No wonder he's the first male lead. His looks live up to the book's description of him as the most captivating figure in the capital. Noticing my gaze, Shinsu also turned his eyes toward me. His lips still curved in a smile as gentle as a breeze. Look, can you really blame me? With a male demon flaunting himself in front of me every day, who could possibly resist? I merely made a mistake that any woman under heaven would make. I forced myself to look away. If I keep looking, the heart I've barely managed to seal away might start stirring again. I quickly gulped down a mouthful of wine. Cough, cough, cough. Drinking too hastily made me choke. And Shinsu over there frowned slightly, his eyes clearly scolding me. He whispered a few words to the young eunuch beside him, who nodded and swiftly walked over to me, deftly taking away my wine and quickly replacing it with a fruit wine that wouldn't burn my throat or easily intoxicate. I shrugged, indifferent, and began to survey the people around me. The female lead, Feng Qingcheng, wasn't sitting with the Feng family. Instead, she was flanked by two men like bodyguards. The young man on the left had an arrogant demeanor, his entire aura wild and unrestrained, with a faint hint of menace. One of the male leads, the young General Zhou Xing'an, the young man on the right lazily twirled his wine glass, greeting everyone with a cheerful smile. This is another male lead, Jin Chao, the son of the mainland's wealthiest family. The two had completely different styles, neither willing to yield to the other. Yet their gazes toward Feng Qingcheng were equally filled with admiration. Feng Qingcheng has likely already accepted both male leads by now. The remaining two will also look at her in a new light after her dazzling performance today. A quarter of an hour later, the legitimate daughter of the Feng family, who, like me, is a villainess, starts stirring up trouble. She claims that Feng Qingcheng is proficient in all the arts of music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, and can effortlessly compose poetry and songs, essentially trying to force Feng Qingcheng to showcase her talents. But many people know that Feng Qingcheng was raised like a servant girl from childhood and barely knows how to read, let alone understand music, chess, calligraphy, painting, poetry, or songs. Letting her go up was just to make a fool of her. I shook my head, clicking my tongue in my heart. This is the female lead. How could she possibly embarrass herself? Sure enough, Feng Qingcheng composed several exquisite poems in a row, drawing gasps and sidelong glances from many. Her robe is like a cloud, her face a flower, balmy the spring breeze, the peony dew-drenched. Suddenly, as if overnight, the spring wind arrives, and thousands of pear trees blossom. The hall is filled with flowers intoxicating 3,000 guests. A single sword's frost chills 14 provinces. Feng Qingcheng composed a poem in 3 steps, her crimson dress stunning all present. Marvelous, truly marvelous. Second Miss Feng's poem is indeed unparalleled. Who dares claim Second Miss Feng lacks talent and virtue? This is clearly a heaven-sent genius. What an extraordinary woman. Faced with the crowd's praises, Feng Qingcheng merely let out a disdainful snort, arrogant and unbridled. Zhou Xing'an and Jin Zhao gazed at her with even more fervent eyes. The Ruran prince, Wuzer, also watched Feng Qingcheng with keen interest. I quickly observed Shinsu's reaction. The storybook described it thus: the red-clad maiden was breathtakingly beautiful, but unexpectedly, her talent was even more dazzling. As Shinsu looked at her, he gradually lost himself, clearly feeling that the tranquil lake of his heart, undisturbed for 20 years, had been stirred by the girl before him. Yet Shinsu remained calm from start to finish, not a ripple of emotion in his eyes. There was no trace of distraction about him. Was he hiding it too well? Or was there some other reason? But I had to admit, whatever the reason, I was quite pleased. I know you're happy, but don't be too happy yet. A strange voice suddenly rang in my ears, but I couldn't find its source no matter where I looked. What the hell? The voice then continued, I'm not a ghost, I'm Correction System 101, mainly responsible for correcting world plots. After some discussion, I roughly understood. so the soul currently inside Feng Qingcheng is from another world. And the few poems she just recited were actually someone else's original works. System 101 remained silent for a moment before saying, though it's a bit unethical, this is actually quite a common trope in transmigration stories. Can a plagiarist really be the female lead? I still couldn't quite accept someone like this becoming Shinsu's wife. She didn't have to be smart, beautiful, or flawless. She could even have multiple husbands, but plagiarism was where I drew the line. In this era, it's common for men to have multiple wives and concubines, so why can't women have multiple husbands and attendants? But one should not so despicably steal what belongs to others. To me, my imperial brother is the best person in the world, and someone like Feng Qingcheng is unworthy of him. The second day of the hunting tournament proceeded as scheduled, with the prize being a peerless sword named Fei Hong Sword, said to be the lost weapon of the top martial artist in the martial world, Yuzar. Zhou Xing'an and Jin Chao all appeared in full martial attire. Shinsu, as the crown prince of Qisong, also personally entered the competition and emerged victorious among many formidable opponents. On the high platform, a man dressed in sapphire blue martial attire drew the Fei Hong sword and executed several swift moves with precision, creating sharp whistling sounds through the air. His inky black hair danced in the wind as he performed a sword routine, graceful as a startled swan. Fluid as a swimming dragon, fierce yet elegant, the crowd below erupted in cheers, the hall filled with drunken guests amidst blooming flowers, a single sword chilling 14 provinces. That's exactly him. Feng Qingcheng stared fixedly at Shinsu, her eyes brimming with unmistakable desire to conquer. My gaze was also drawn to Shinsu. There was no helping it. He was simply too striking, impossible to ignore. Across the sea of people, Shinsu suddenly turned his eyes toward me. Under the blazing sun, he curled his lips into a faint smile directed at me. My heart skipped a beat. I can't take it. I just can't take it. Covering my restless chest, I fled in panic. That night, I dreamed of Shinsu again. And this dream was even more tantalizing than the last, only this time, it was me who was bound by chains. Shinsu sat by the couch, his long hair loosely cascading, his expression languid, with a casual flick of his slender fingers. My belt fell to the ground, then. He curled his lips slightly, his tone ambiguous and flirtatious. Imperial sister is truly a peerless beauty. As your elder brother, I have long been smitten. As soon as the words left his lips, he suddenly pressed down on me, his kisses falling like a storm, carrying an unyielding madness. My hands were pinned beneath his fingers slowly interlacing with mine until our hands were tightly clasped. I couldn't utter a single complete sentence. The scene shifted as Shinsu emerged from behind the screen, droplets of water still glistening on his body. Zhao Jun, he kissed my forehead and called my name tenderly. Don't think about leaving me again. Elder brother doesn't want to use those methods on you. Wouldn't it be better if you behaved? The dream abruptly ended at this point. I couldn't sleep anymore either, absent-mindedly hugging the quilt until dawn, as the first light of morning appeared. Song Shue brought in the washing water and deliberately mentioned, "There's news from the Empress's side. They're selecting a principal consort for the Crown Prince." I froze for a moment, choosing a principal consort. Yes, I heard the eldest daughter of the Li family and the second daughter of the Morong family are both on the shortlist. Hey, princess. Before Song Shue could finish speaking, I quickly jumped out of bed, slipped on my shoes and socks, and ran straight to the Eastern Palace. Just as I entered the main gate, a young man in plain clothes came walking toward me, with sword-like brows and starry eyes, a high-bridged nose, and strikingly beautiful features that starkly contrasted with his plain attire. This humble commoner pays respects to the 8th princess. He bowed to me with proper decorum. At ease, I hurried to meet Shinsu, barely giving this man a second glance. It was just past Mao hour, 5 to 7 a.m. Shinsu was practicing swordplay in the courtyard when he saw me approach. Sheathing his sword, he greeted me with a radiant smile. It seems like he always smiles whenever he sees me. "Why are you up so early today?" "Oh right. I usually sleep until the sun is high in the sky. Waking up at dawn today is truly unprecedented." I cleared my throat lightly and asked him seriously, "Brother, are you going to get married?" A faint, almost imperceptible glint of darkness flashed through Shin Su's eyes upon hearing this. After a moment, he replied gently, "A few days ago, Her Majesty did mention this matter to me." I pressed further, "Does your Highness have someone in mind, then, in a way?" "Yes," Shin Su said slowly. "Who, is it the second young lady of the Feng family, Feng Qingcheng?" "No, that's a relief," I sighed, smiling again. "Which family's daughter has captured my royal brother's heart?" Shin Su just looked at me without speaking. Could it be? Thinking of that possibility, my heart ached. Royal brother, don't worry, I won't do anything to that girl. I used to mistake my admiration for His Highness as romantic love, but now I understand. I will correct my position and not cause any trouble for His Highness and his future consort. Shin Su looked up in surprise. I know His Highness might find it hard to believe. So I have already requested our father's decree to select a consort for me in 3 days. As the last syllable fell, silence suddenly enveloped the surroundings. A gentle breeze brushed by, causing the stray strands of hair on Shin Su's forehead to sway. His upturned phoenix eyes were filled with emotions I couldn't decipher. After a long pause, he finally spoke in a hoarse voice. "Are you serious?" I nodded. "Yes, I'm almost 17. It's time I choose a consort. I always keep my word." In the afternoon, a batch of portraits of noble ladies was sent to the Eastern Palace, and the very next day, a collection of portraits of noble young men was delivered to my Haitang Hall, the eldest grandson of the Duke's mansion, the legitimate second son of the Prime Minister's residence, the eldest son of the Grand Tutor's family. Logically speaking, as the daughter of an unfavored minor concubine, I shouldn't even come close to such high-ranking young masters. But who could blame me for having such an excellent elder brother? The emperor had 9 sons, and Shin Su, as the legitimate eldest son, came from a powerful maternal family. His own excellence was so unparalleled that the court officials didn't even consider supporting any other princes, because they knew very well that unless Shin Su died, no prince could possibly wrest the imperial throne from his grasp, as the future emperor's most beloved younger sister. There was no shortage of nobles who wanted to marry me, hoping to gain favor with the powerful Shin Su. Moreover, my looks were nothing to scoff at. The eldest daughter of the Grand Tutor was renowned for both talent and beauty, hailed as the top talented maiden of the capital, and I, with my looks alone, was ranked alongside her as one of the twin jewels of the capital. After my coming-of-age ceremony, many noble sons and even the emperor sought my hand in marriage. But since I was secretly coveting Shin Su at the time, I rejected them all. "This one looks quite handsome." I held the portrait and examined it carefully, while Song Shue stood beside me, her jaw nearly dropping in shock. "Has your Highness truly let go of the crown prince?" Truer words were never spoken. Seeing how seriously I was selecting the portraits, Song Shue finally believed me. She glanced at the portrait in my hand and muttered softly, "It's good. But still not as good as His Highness the Crown Prince." My grip on the portrait tightened slightly. My thoughts began to drift. Shin Su was the emperor's eldest legitimate son, crowned as the crown prince at birth, bestowed with boundless glory. He lived up to everyone's expectations, excelling in both literary and military arts, possessing extraordinary grace and bearing, with every word and action exemplifying royal dignity. Most importantly, he was blessed with a devastatingly handsome appearance that could topple cities and ruin nations. Apart from rumors suggesting he might be a cut-sleeve or have some hidden ailment, there wasn't a single flaw to be found. Therefore, Shin Su not only had the admiration of many women but also the respect of numerous men who admired his literary talent and martial prowess. Having seen such a man, it becomes difficult to find other men appealing. I picked and chose, selected and reconsidered, yet could never find one who satisfied me. Every one of them seemed inferior to Shin Su. "This one looks good, but he's a playboy with no substance." "That one has good character, but he's too rigid, always wearing a cold expression as if someone owes him money." "This one has both looks and personality, but he's too smooth-talking, which is annoying to see." "There's another who's excellent in every aspect, even Song Shue thinks so, but I've decided to give it a try. It happened to be the Lantern Festival. And that young gentleman from the Lee family, whom Song Shue thought quite well of, invited me for a stroll together. I agreed. As the lanterns lit up the evening, the entire street was adorned with all kinds of festive lanterns, creating a dazzling spectacle of lights. The air was filled with the constant calls of vendors, making the scene incredibly lively. Miss Shin, the young gentleman from the Lee family, handed me a small rabbit-shaped lantern, his eyes curved into a smile, with shallow dimples appearing on both sides of his face. I took it, lowering my gaze as I softly said, "Thank you. Over there, they're guessing lantern riddles. Want to go take a look? Let's go." I don't know what else to do anyway. The crowd surged, and in the blink of an eye, I got separated from young Master Lee. Suddenly, my gaze froze. Under the willow tree by the riverbank, a man in silver stood still, tall and graceful as a pine. He wore an intricately patterned silver fox mask, revealing only a pair of eyes bathed in moonlight. Those eyes gazed at me through the vast sea of people, deep and dangerous. Shin-Su. Even if I could only see his eyes, I was certain it was Shin-Su. At this moment, my heart, which had been silent all night, began to leap wildly with joy. Clutching the rabbit lantern, I hesitated over whether to go up and say a few words, but when I looked up again, Shin-Su had already vanished without a trace. The next moment, my waist tightened as I was lifted horizontally into the air. The familiar, delicate fragrance of plum blossoms enveloped me. Unable to resist, I embraced him in return, burying my face against his chest with deep affection. Holding me, he leaped away from the crowd and landed on a painted boat floating on the lake. Throughout the entire process, I didn't resist at all, only clinging tightly to him. Entering the cabin, he set me down, yet his hand still didn't release my waist. We gazed at each other for a long time. The man before me had flickering eyes and finally spoke his first words. "Do you know who I am?" I lifted my chin with considerable pride. "Of course, even if you wore a mask, I'd recognize you even if you turned to ashes." "Brother." Shin-Su lowered her eyelashes, the long, delicate lashes fluttering a few times like black butterflies about to take flight. "Incredibly beautiful. Do you like that young master from the Lee family?" he asked. "He's all right." It couldn't be called liking, just that she didn't dislike him. "He's quite good. Song Shue also thinks highly of him, and the Lee family parents are famously kind-hearted. Marrying into their family would be a rather good choice. Then am I not good enough?" Shin-Su suddenly grasped my wrist, his pitch-black pupils reflecting the clear, cold moon in the sky. "And me? Zhao Jun is going to abandon me, is that it?" I was dumbfounded. "Imperial brother, I have feelings for you." Those 5 short words sent a roaring in my ears. The whole world seemed to spin around me. It took me a long while to come back to my senses. I looked into his eyes, my voice trembling slightly. "Say it again." Shin-Su's slender hand caressed my cheek, his clear and gentle voice striking my ears word by word as he said, "Shin Zhao Jun, I have loved you for a long time." I stood on tiptoe and pressed my lips to his without hesitation. Some things cannot be expressed in words. On the lake, a pair of mandarin ducks nestled together affectionately, their movements sending ripples across the water. On a midsummer night, bursts of fireworks exploded across the dark sky, dazzling and colorful. As the night deepened, half the crowd on the streets had dispersed, leaving only the bright white moon still hanging in the sky. Inside the painted boat, I nestled in Shin-Su's embrace, my hair slightly disheveled, the rouge on my lips much faded. Shin-Su was also in disarray, his entire demeanor subtly altered, his gentle eyes now tinged with a hint of wickedness. "Doesn't my royal brother also like me? Then why reject me?" Just when we were on the verge of the final step, Shin-Su actually pushed me away. Shin-Su looked at me, a low chuckle escaping his throat. "The grand sedan chair and the formal betrothal gifts haven't even been given to you yet. How could I let you suffer such an injustice?" I pouted. "I don't care, I only care about you. As long as we share the same feelings, nothing else matters to me." Shin-Su laughed helplessly. "But I care. Zhao Jun deserves the best of everything in this world." "Well, this wave of sweet talk has successfully enchanted me," I asked gleefully. "Then you said earlier that you've liked me for a long time. How long is a long time? Shinsu lifted a strand of my hair, twirling it around his fingertip. He paused for a moment upon hearing my words, then smiled and said, "It's been about a year." "A year? Then why did you keep rejecting me when I confessed my feelings to you before?" He sighed softly. "Back then, I couldn't get past my own mental barrier. You were like a little sister to me. It was fine for you to be playful, but as your elder brother, I couldn't just follow along with your whims. I thought I could keep this forbidden love hidden in my heart forever, content to simply watch over your happiness as an elder brother. But perhaps I overestimated myself. The moment I heard news of your betrothal to another man, I couldn't bear it and came looking for me." I raised an eyebrow, finishing his sentence with evident satisfaction. "Yes," he nodded, his smile growing even more gentle and warm under the pale moonlight. Facing this smile, an inexplicable shiver ran through me, a strange feeling flashing by in an instant. Before I could dwell on it further, Shinsu took my hand and gently kissed it. "You needn't worry about our affairs. My elder brother will clear all obstacles. Just stay peacefully in the Haitang Palace and embroider your wedding dress. All right, one last chance, marry me, and you can remain the Emperor of Chisong. Otherwise, you and Chisong will both become mere footnotes in history." In the resplendent and magnificent hall, Feng Qingcheng looked at Shinsu with an air of arrogance. Behind her stood 3 men, Zhou Xing'an, Jin Chao, and Wozer. Shinsu knelt on one knee, his silver-white armor soaked in blood. But even paler was his face. A bloody gash ran from his brow to the corner of his mouth, with thin trails of blood slowly trickling down, a stark and shocking contrast between the extreme whiteness and red, faced with Feng Qingcheng's threat. He merely lifted his eyelids slightly, not uttering a single word, only offering a faint, disdainful smile. "Feng Qingcheng, Xin Zhaojun is already dead, and you still insist on preserving your chastity for her." Shinsu simply closed his eyes. As if he couldn't bear to look at her, Feng Qingcheng, enraged, repeated "Fine," 3 times. "Ungrateful wretch, if that's the case, then you can go join her and be a pair of wild lovebirds in the afterlife. You won't die that easily, though." The scene shifts. Shinsu is tied to a pillar, his tendons severed, blood streaming from both eyes. "Whoever shoots the most arrows into him will be the first to father my child." Feng Qingcheng says this to the 3 men. The 3 men's eyes instantly light up, all straining to shoot Shinsu with their utmost effort. In the end, the last emperor of Chisong was shot to death by a hail of arrows, not even leaving behind an intact corpse. No, I suddenly woke up with a start. My body was already drenched in cold sweat. Thank goodness, it was just, this is not a dream. That thing calling itself the system suddenly appeared again. "This is what truly happened in your previous life." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "It was explained from the beginning. I am the system responsible for repairing the world's storyline. The plot of this world has collapsed. The first male lead fell in love with a supporting female character, and in the end, he was killed by the female lead and other male leads joining forces. If you insist on being with him, Shinsu will still end up the same way as in the previous life." My heart sank to the bottom. "Is there no other way?" The system replied coldly. "No. He must be with the female lead, or there's only death waiting for him." Out of the corner of my eye, a vivid red appeared. It was the wedding dress nearing completion. I lifted a corner of the dress, my eyes brimming with unshed tears. Wearing the wedding dress embroidered with my own hands to marry the love of my life, this hope ultimately turned out to be a flower in the mirror. The moon in the water, boom, bean-sized raindrops pelted down noisily, and as a bolt of lightning flashed, the night sky suddenly brightened for an instant. I sat by the window, staring blankly at the torrential rain outside, didn't even notice someone standing behind me. It wasn't until I fell into an embrace carrying the scent of cold plum blossoms that my thoughts returned. "What's on your mind? You're so lost in thought." The man's warm lips brushed past my ear, suppressing the bitterness in my heart. I pushed Shinsu away and forced a smile. "Nothing." Shinsu's brows furrowed almost imperceptibly as he took another step closer. I quickly retreated 2 steps, lowering my eyes as I spoke softly. "Imperial brother, let's just forget it." Only belatedly did I realize that I seemed to have developed feelings for the young master of the Li family. As for you, imperial brother, I did admire you once, I won't deny that, but those feelings have passed, and my heart no longer belongs to you. From now on, you will still be the beloved elder brother that Zhao Jun respects. May the bond between us as siblings endure forever. After I finished speaking, the air fell into a moment of silence, in the stagnant atmosphere. Shinsu suddenly let out a very soft laugh. Zhao Jun, do you still resent me for repeatedly neglecting you in the past? It was my fault. It's only natural for Zhao Jun to hold resentment. No, I don't resent you, imperial brother. My hands clenched tightly beneath my sleeves, the knuckles turning slightly white. My heart now belongs to young Master Li. Father Emperor is also quite pleased with him, and barring any unforeseen circumstances, we will be happily wed next year. I am not the right one for you, imperial brother. Please find your true destined partner soon. Zhao Jun is my one and only true love. Shinsu took my hand, his smile as gentle and warm as a spring breeze. My wife can only be you, me. There's no possibility for us anymore. The person I wish to marry now is the young master of the Li family. He simply looked at me with the indulgent gaze one reserves for a child's tantrum, speaking in a tone that was both helpless and doting. I can let you have your way in everything else, but this one thing is non-negotiable. Marrying me is a foregone conclusion. Even the emperor cannot interfere. When Shinsu spoke these words, the smile at his lips carried a hint of something sinister. The weather has been cold lately, making one prone to catching a chill. Zhao Jun, it would be better for you to stay within the palace. With that single sentence, he confined me to my quarters. I can only move around within the Haitang Palace. I cannot leave, and outsiders cannot enter. Apart from a few personal maids, no one else follows my orders at all. It was at this moment that I suddenly realized everyone in the Haitang Palace was actually under Shinsu's control. You saw it too. I told Shinsu not to like me anymore, but he just wouldn't listen. What else can I do? The voice in my head fell silent for a moment before saying, never mind that, just disappear from his sight first. If you keep hovering around him, of course he won't have any extra attention to spare for the female lead. I pouted. In the previous life, Shinsu liked me, and he still did until the very end. I don't think this life will be any different, the system replied. The previous life was the previous life. How do you know he won't change in this one if you don't even try? Besides, don't forget, if he chooses you, he will die without a burial place. Don't underestimate the butterfly effect. Sometimes, just a tiny change can alter the entire world's course. Try, and Shinsu might still have a sliver of hope. But if you don't even try, then he will surely die. Closing my eyes, the image of Shinsu pierced by countless arrows seems to appear before me. My breath hitches, and I collapse onto the bed as if drained of all strength. Fine. I'll find a way to disappear from his sight. The night is enchanting. Shinsu caressed the nearly finished wedding dress on the table, his eyes glimmering with faint light. It's truly beautiful, he praised generously. Of course it is. Just look at who embroidered it. I snorted lightly, brimming with pride. Shinsu smiled without speaking, gently pulling me into his embrace, his lips lightly brushing my forehead. After a moment, he said softly, soon, I can give you a proper wedding. I nestled in his arms, my expression complicated. More than half a month had passed since the day I rejected Shinsu. The emperor's health has been deteriorating, and 7 days ago he became completely bedridden. With all court affairs being fully entrusted to Shinsu, taking advantage of this situation, he devised a plan, using the pretext of praying for the emperor's well-being to send me to the Ling Mountain Temple in the outskirts for Buddhist rites. On the way, a group of bandits would attempt to rob and kill, during which I would accidentally fall off a cliff while fleeing. At that point, there would no longer be an 8th Princess Zhao Jun in this world. Then, I would enter the Eastern Palace as the long-lost daughter of a certain minister and become Shinsu's crown princess. Zhao Jun, do you love me? Shinsu lowered his head to touch my forehead, his gaze intoxicatingly tender. I couldn't help but fall into his tenderness. Almost nodding instinctively, yes, I love you, forever. Shinsu's eyes curved slightly as he smiled with satisfaction. I love you too, only you. After being all lovey-dovey for nearly an hour, Shinsu had to leave due to an urgent matter. As soon as he left, the person hiding in the side chamber came out. TSK, TSK, TSK. You two are so disgustingly sweet. Lu Jinyan leaned against the doorframe, his eyes filled with hurt and loneliness. It truly breaks my heart, tall and slender, with lips as red as rouge and teeth like pearls. His strikingly handsome features couldn't be concealed even by the plain eunuch's attire. I had no mind to bicker with him and simply asked, "How confident are you that this will succeed?" 100%. He declared with unwavering certainty, his eyes brimming with bold confidence. Nowadays, the Crown Prince oversees state affairs, with the majority of court officials being his supporters. And Shinsu also enjoys considerable popularity among the people, with favorable timing, geographical advantages, and popular support. It's no exaggeration to say that the kingdom of Chisong is already within Shinsu's grasp. Under such circumstances, it's nearly impossible for me to leave the imperial palace. It was at this moment that Lu Jinyan appeared. He didn't know what method he used to sneak into the Haitang Hall, which was full of people from the Eastern Palace, and said he could help me leave the palace. There are no free lunches in this world, so I asked him why he wanted to help me. Upon hearing this, he immediately grabbed my hand and said with deep affection, "Your Highness may not know, but that day when the apricot blossoms fell like a light rain, you stood amidst the shower of petals and smiled so beautifully. It captured my heart instantly. From then on, I've thought of you day and night, while eating, even in my dreams. I've missed you so much I'm almost lovesick." I didn't believe a word of it. The man spoke words of love to me, yet there was not a trace of affection in the depths of his eyes. Even though I knew he had ulterior motives, I agreed for the sake of leaving the palace. On the day of the pilgrimage to Lingshan Temple, Lu Jinyan would blend in with the bandits arranged by Shinsu to take me away. Before that, I needed to lower Shinsu's guard, so, during these past 2 weeks, I took the initiative to go to Shinsu and admit my mistake, saying it was just a girl's petty thoughts, that I didn't believe he truly liked me at first and deliberately acted out to test him. Shinsu might have believed it, or perhaps he didn't. But in any case, he no longer kept me confined. I could come and go from the palace freely, though I was always accompanied by a group of guards. They claimed it was for my protection, but there was also an element of surveillance to it. On the day we went to Lingshan Temple, Shinsu originally planned to accompany me, but just as we were already in the carriage, a subordinate reported an extremely urgent matter, and he had to leave. "Don't worry, brother, I can manage on my own." Shinsu still frowned, looking rather uneasy. I stepped closer to him and whispered in a voice only the two of us could hear, "I really want to marry you, brother. You must seize power soon, so no one can oppose us. Those ministers aren't fools. With this face of mine, who wouldn't recognize me as Shin Zhaojun, but under absolute power, some will willingly play the fool." After much earnest persuasion, Shinsu finally agreed to let me go. As the carriage moved away from Shengjing, Shinsu's figure grew smaller and smaller. This farewell might mean we'll never meet again in this lifetime. In the future, Shinsu will marry another woman, have children, live in perfect harmony, and share a lifetime of love. Just the thought of that scene makes me bite my handkerchief, with tears streaming uncontrollably down my face. By the time Lu Jinyan abducted me, I was crying so hard I started hiccuping, nearly passing out. Lu Jinyan's lips twitched. "Is this really necessary?" With our prepared travel funds and road passes, we journeyed south all the way to Jianzhou. Along the way, a few troublemakers who crossed our path were all beaten to a pulp by Lu Jinyan. I marveled, "You've got some real skills there." Lu Jinyan proudly raised his chin. "Of course, otherwise how could I have snatched you away from a group of martial arts masters?" During the trip to Lingshan Temple, I was accompanied by dozens of highly skilled martial arts guards. Any one of them could take on 100 enemies single-handedly, under such circumstances. It was truly impressive that Lu Jinyan managed to abduct me without a scratch. On the other side, the Imperial Palace, in the Haitang Hall, Shinsu sat by the couch, holding a letter in his hand with 5 words written on it, "Beware of Zhou Xing'an." The flickering candlelight danced in his pitch-black pupils as the paper crumpled under his grip, the man's aura growing increasingly sinister and terrifying. His royal sister had let him down again. That little liar full of deceit, he should never have believed her words. However, he had no idea when such a peerless expert had appeared by her side. "Search, tear the earth apart if you must, but bring the princess back." "Yes." A row of men in black acknowledged the order and withdrew. Shinsu walked to the desk where the bright red wedding dress still lay quietly, waiting for its owner to complete it. His slender fingers traced the fabric as the man's phoenix eyes narrowed slightly, a sickly dark glint spreading in their depths. Run? Why would she run? He had clearly restrained himself enough. Towards her, he had always been gentle, considerate, and patient. Shinsu believed he had pretended well enough, yet even this couldn't keep her. In that case, there was no need for him to suppress himself anymore. In the blink of an eye, more than half a year slipped through my fingers. I sat in the noodle shop, listening to the people at the next table recount the events that had unfolded in Shengjing over the past 6 months. Half a year ago, the old emperor suddenly passed away, and Shinsu ascended to the throne in a grand ceremony. The second daughter of the Feng family, Feng Qingcheng, publicly declared her love for the new emperor, a bold move that shocked the entire Shengjing. There are still some trivial little matters. I lost interest in the rest after finishing the noodles. I left the money on the table and returned to the residence I had bought in Jinzhou. Lu Jinyan was busy taking stock of the items needed for the wedding. Yes, the wedding. Over the past 6 months, Lu Jinyan has practically gone all out to win my favor. But I still can't develop romantic feelings for him. For one, my heart belongs to Shinsu. For another, his efforts to please me are too superficial, as if he's rushing to complete some task, making it hard to feel any genuine sincerity. Finally, a month ago, he gave up and drowned his sorrows in alcohol, accidentally letting slip the truth. He said he's actually not from this world and came here because he was bound to something called the Villainess supporting character conquest system. He needs to raise my favorability to 100 within 2 years to complete the task. Favorability is divided into 5 levels. 50 is grade A, 60 is B, 70 is C, 80 is D, 90 is S, and 100 is S+. But after all this time trying to win me over, my favorability toward him is only 45. It's just stuck at the friend stage, not even reaching grade A. By the time he regained his senses, it was already too late to salvage the situation. Lu Jinyan simply decided to throw caution to the wind and lamented with a sigh. Failing so utterly on the very first mission is truly disheartening. I pursed my lips and asked, "What happens if you fail?" "If you fail, you get sent to the punishment world." "What kind of punishment?" He shrugged. "I'm a newbie. I don't know right now, but I do know how to lessen the punishment." "What? Give me a title." I was stunned. Lu Jinyan explained. "My department focuses on love strategies. Whether a relationship can last and flourish depends on whether the two people truly love each other and their marital bond. Some people may love each other initially, but later part ways for various reasons, ending up marrying and having children with someone else, ultimately regretting it for a lifetime. Others may have a formal relationship status, but without love between them, they won't find happiness. So, our department's rating criteria primarily consider affection levels, followed by whether one can secure a spousal relationship with the target of the strategy. Although the main mission failed, completing the side quest can at least reduce the punishment. Though I didn't quite understand, I nodded anyway. "Okay, I promise, it's just a formality. I won't actually do anything to you." You agreed just like that?" Lu Jinyan raised an eyebrow in surprise. "I had a whole speech prepared to persuade you. In this era, a woman's marriage is of utmost importance. Won't you reconsider?" My gaze remained calm, my smile faint. "To me, marrying anyone is about the same. Besides, it's just a formality, not a real marriage. And since you've helped me before, both sentiment and reason dictate that I should agree." Lu Jinyan's eyes brimmed with emotion. "Shinjiaojun, you truly are a kind soul. I'll definitely repay you when I get the chance." So that's how we ended up in this situation, ahem. Lu Jinyan looked at me and suddenly asked, "Are you nervous?" I was puzzled. "We're just pretending to get married. Why would I be nervous?" He scratched his head. "Well, even though it's fake. This is still my first time getting married, so it's hard not to feel a little nervous." Lu Jinyan studied me for a while longer, then sighed and muttered under his breath, "Sigh, so beautiful. If only you were really my wife." After discussing for a while, we settled on the wedding date, and I returned to my bedroom. At night, a light rain began to fall, the pitter-patter of raindrops inexplicably soothing. The wedding is set for June 16th, and now it's the end of May. The Dragon Boat Festival will be here soon. In the Imperial Palace, the Dragon Boat Festival is celebrated with zongzi prepared by the Imperial Kitchen. Few of us princes, princesses, or even the Emperor's consorts would bother to make them ourselves. Shinsu, having been raised to master various skills from a young age, naturally wouldn't stoop to such tasks either. That was until the year I turned 11, when I insisted on having zongzi made by Shinsu. He patted my head, agreed with a smile, and that very day found someone to teach him how to make them, just for me. Every Dragon Boat Festival since then, no matter how busy Shinsu was, he would always make time to personally wrap a few zongzi for me. Recalling the past, I sighed with melancholy, thinking that this year I wouldn't get to eat them. Hall of Mental Cultivation. A man dressed in black knelt on one knee with his head bowed as he reported, "News from the south says the princess was spotted in Jinzhou." Before the desk, a young emperor clad in bright yellow dragon robes slightly bent his waist, the wolf hair brush in his hand gradually outlining a slender figure on the scroll. As the final stroke was completed, the man lightly curled the corners of his lips, the dark intensity in his eyes growing even stronger. I understand. This subordinate will immediately dispatch someone to bring the princess." Shinsu interrupted indifferently, "No need. I will go myself." After the black-clad secret guard withdrew, Shinsu unrolled the scroll. The girl in the painting was charming and lively, lying softly on the table with flushed cheeks as if drunk. Her large almond-shaped eyes were filled with a hazy, watery glow, evoking the misty, rain-shrouded landscapes of the Jiangnan region. After watching quietly for a while, Shinsu carefully put it away and opened the hidden compartment beneath the desk. Inside the square, neatly concealed space lay a gleaming golden chain. He placed the scroll inside and took out the golden chain, laying it on the jade table. Shinsu closed his eyes, imagining the scene of this golden shackle locked around the delicate ankles of the young maiden. Just the thought of it made the corners of his mouth curl up uncontrollably. An indescribable thrill of pleasure spread through his entire body. Zhao Jun, the treasure he had cherished in the depths of his heart for 2 lifetimes, whether in their past life or this one, he would never let her go. Nothing can separate them, not even death. June 16th, an auspicious day for weddings. Enter the bridal sedan. Step over the fire pan, and bow to heaven and earth. By the time all the rituals were completed, night had already fallen. I sat drowsily on the bed strewn with peanuts and longans, my head weighed down by the red bridal veil. After what felt like an eternity, the door creaked open. Someone entered. My consciousness returned as I leaned against the bedpost, exhaustion in my voice. "What time is it now?" No one answered. "I feel something is off. Why aren't you saying anything?" Still no response. I raise my hand to lift the red bridal veil, but just as my hand moves, it's caught by a broad, familiar palm, and a well-known scent washes over me. The next moment, the red bridal veil was lifted, revealing a flawless, jade-like face of extraordinary beauty. "Imperial brother," the man responded with a low hum, his tone flat and devoid of any fluctuation. Yet, the more indifferent he appeared, the more inexplicably uneasy I felt. His cool fingertips slowly traced the contours of my face, and after a long while, he murmured, "Red suits you well." There was no anger, disappointment, or sadness as I had imagined. He was calm, as if nothing had happened. "Something unusual must be afoot. I'm sorry, elder brother. It's my fault, all my fault. Please don't be angry. It's not good for your health." Whatever he was plotting, I decided to apologize first. Shinsu finally showed a faint smile. "Since you know you've done wrong, then obediently accept your punishment." Punishment? What punishment? Before I could ask, a sharp pain struck the back of my neck, and my consciousness slipped into darkness. When I woke again, my eyes met a scene of splendor. I sat up, and a crisp jingling sound followed. My body stiffened as I lifted the blanket to reveal a gleaming golden chain locked around my right ankle. Isn't this the one that belongs to me? The very same golden chain I had used to imprison Shinsu. The one I had stored away in a box after deciding to stop clinging to him. It was actually found by Shinsu, and now it's locked around his own ankle. Hearing the noise, Shinsu emerged from behind the screen. He had just finished bathing, his long hair loose. Wearing nothing but a snow-white undergarment, his body still enveloped in a hazy mist, uncontrollable tears once again streamed from the corner of his mouth. I quickly wiped my mouth, coughed symbolically, and put on a pitiful, humble expression. I really know I was wrong. I'll never do it again. Could you please unlock it, please, Your Highness? Shinsu sat on the edge of the bed, his fingers gently tracing the chain on my foot before slowly shaking his head. I won't believe you again. Zhao Jun, I never wanted to treat you like this. It's because you're too disobedient, always thinking of leaving your imperial brother. Shinsu personally tore off his gentle mask, revealing the sick and twisted soul beneath. I love you. I can give you anything you desire, but there's just one thing, you must never leave me. Why is it that even this one request, Zhao Jun, you cannot fulfill for me? Since that's the case, don't blame His Majesty for keeping you confined. Shinsu lifted my right leg, bending down to place a kiss on the ankle bound with a golden chain. This kiss held not a trace of lust, only pure, fervent devotion, the kind reserved for one's highest belief. Strangely, I didn't feel much surprise. It seems that deep down, I've always felt Shinsu should be like this. I like him even more now. The grand wedding will be in 7 days, Shinsu suddenly declared. He smiled and said, you'll have to endure a little hardship before then. After the grand wedding, I will naturally have it undone. I opened my mouth wide. So soon, won't you reconsider? Shinsu said no more, merely covering me with a thin quilt before rising to leave. In the afternoon, palace attendants delivered a wedding dress, red as flames, exquisitely gorgeous. The more I look at it, the more familiar it seems. Isn't this the very piece I sewed with my own hands before? It's just that a small part was unfinished before, and now it's been completely stitched up. Did my imperial brother have this embroidered by a seamstress? The young palace maid who delivered the wedding dress replied respectfully. His Majesty consulted the seamstress and then personally stitched every single needle to complete it. It wasn't exactly an unbelievable matter. When it comes to my matters, Shinsu never delegates to others. He always handles them himself if he can. Without exception, I couldn't help but imagine him threading a needle, lowering his gaze as he stitched the wedding dress, one stitch at a time. How domestic of him. I couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. Tell His Majesty to come here. I have
today that made my heart race and cheeks flush instantly surfaced in my mind. I truly hadn't expected that someone who usually appeared so composed and indifferent could be so wild in that matter. The more I thought about it, the more my face burned with embarrassment, so I buried it in the blanket. Slowly, drowsiness and exhaustion washed over me, and I fell asleep again. Outside, the sunlight was gentle, and the breeze was just right. No matter what the future holds, at least in this moment, both hearts are happy. After marriage, Shinsu kept his promise and removed the chain from my ankle. I completely let myself go, thinking of nothing, spending every day sweetly and inseparably with Shinsu. But the story continues. Not long after marrying Shinsu, Feng Qingcheng suddenly appeared, demanding that Shinsu divorce his wife and then remarry her with an even grander wedding. Shinsu naturally refused. Feng Qingcheng immediately turned cold and warned him not to regret it. It seems she's gathering forces to destroy the kingdom of Qisong. To be honest, I don't think Feng Qingcheng really liked Shinsu that much. Perhaps influenced by the plot, or simply because the unattainable stirs desire, Feng Qingcheng was particularly fixated on Shinsu. 6 months later, Feng Qingcheng and Zhou Xingyan joined forces with the Ruran Prince Wuzir to rebel. The entire nation was in an uproar. Let's not even mention Feng Qingcheng for now. Zhou Xingyan comes from the Jinghua general's mansion, a family with 3 generations of loyal service to the nation. because of him alone. The Zhou family's centuries-old reputation for loyalty was ruined in an instant. Old General Zhou was so furious that he spat out a mouthful of blood that very day. However, the military command token had long been handed over to Zhou Xingyan, leaving old General Zhou powerless to stop him despite his vehement opposition. After 2 months of fighting, Zhou Xingyan's army advanced triumphantly all the way, on the verge of capturing Shengjing, when his deputy commander suddenly betrayed him. All the confidential battle plans were leaked. Sun Tzu, the emperor himself, arrived at the battlefield and, in collaboration with the undercover agents planted in Zhou Xingyan's army, set a trap to catch the enemy in a jar. Zhou Xingyan was instantly killed by a hail of arrows. Wu Sir, sensing the tide turning, fled the battlefield with Feng Qingcheng in advance and narrowly escaped disaster. The heir to the mainland's richest fortune, Jin Zhao, suffered a severe setback after investing too much money in Zhou Xingyan's army. His half-brother, Jin Yi, seized the opportunity to make his move, swiftly displacing him to become the new heir of the Jin family. It was only later that I learned the plain-clothed young man I had met at the Eastern Palace gates all those years ago was actually Jin Yi. Sun Tzu had long since approached Jin Yi, and the two had secretly reached a cooperation agreement. Not only that, but 4 years ago he had already secretly turned Zhou Xingyan's trusted general against him. Having lived a second life, Sun Tzu had meticulously planned everything in advance, just waiting for Feng Qingcheng and the others to fall into his trap. By this point, 2 of Feng Qingcheng's 3 pillars of support had already been destroyed. Only the Ruren Prince Wusser remained, who was not a significant threat. Later, it was said that Wusser married the daughter of a high-ranking official in order to compete with his brothers for the throne. Feng Qingcheng was unhappy about this, and after their argument ended in a stalemate, she left Ran in anger and has since disappeared without a trace. As for Lu Jinyan, Sun Tzu had initially imprisoned him, but that very night, he vanished into thin air from his cell, literally vanished into thin air, right in front of a guard who happened to witness it, scaring the guard so badly that he fainted on the spot. Several years have passed, and he should have long since departed for another world, yet the peaceful and happy life I shared with Sun Tzu lasted only a decade. After 10 years, Sun Tzu's body began to manifest various ailments. Despite seeking out renowned physicians across the land, none could find a cure for his illness. Only then did I understand what the system had said during its final appearance 6 years ago. I told you, if he doesn't end up with the female lead, he will die. Even if the female lead and other male leads can't kill him, he will still die in some other way. I looked at the person on the bed. In just a few months, the once celestial-like figure had lost all radiance. Appearing haggard and emaciated beyond recognition, I tried desperately to hold back my tears, but the moment I took his hand, I couldn't hold it in anymore and cried. So thin, how could he be this thin, so frail? As if he might vanish with the wind at any moment. Between sobs, I choked out the question, "Do you regret it?" Sun Tzu just looked at me, not saying a word. Those bloodshot eyes were filled with me, and only me, just like in the past. In the spring of the 12th year, Sun Tzu left. Having witnessed many women die from difficult childbirths, Sun Tzu didn't want me to take even the slightest risk, so he never had children. He shouldered all the pressure, selected a child from the royal clan to nurture and educate, and then named him the Crown Prince. He once said that if I died first, he would be buried with me, and if he died first, he would surely take me along in death. But when that time truly came, Sun Tzu, on the contrary, had already arranged a path for the rest of my life. After his passing, I still lived well. The new emperor held me in high regard, status, power, respect. I had everything a dowager empress should possess. Truthfully, I never considered following him in death, but I must admit, I missed him dearly. The world without him became somewhat dull. It's been a year since Sun Tzu passed away, and my health hasn't been great either, despite eating and sleeping on schedule every day. I still feel exhausted, unexplainably exhausted. One warm, sunny afternoon, as I lay on the soft couch basking in the sunlight, I dreamed of many things from the past. Most of them were scenes with Sun Tzu. After all, he was part of all my happy memories. In my dream, the corners of my lips lifted slightly, as if I saw Sun Tzu returning. He stood there, arms wide open, his eyes and brows curved in a smile. I lifted the hem of my skirt and ran toward him, laughing. Extra Story 1. When I opened my eyes again, it was a completely unfamiliar environment. A talking box, a glowing brick, a singing plush toy. How magical. I opened my mouth, but what came out was the babble of a baby. Stretch out my hands. So fair and smooth. Like a peeled hard-boiled egg, just not like an adult's arm. Oh, our little Jajun has woken up, and didn't even cry. So good. A gentle woman picked me up, smiling as she walked out. Come on, let's go across the hall to play with your brother Shinsu. Shinsu, hearing that name again, my breath nearly stopped. Under the scorching sun, as I lay on my mother's shoulder, I spotted a small figure from afar. A boy of about 5 or 6 years old sat on a small stool, holding green bamboo leaves in his chubby little hands while carefully placing washed glutinous rice inside with the other, his expression utterly serious. It was none other than a miniature version of Shinsu. I stretched out my hands, ready to pounce. My mother quickly steadied my little body and carefully carried me over. As soon as I got close, I grabbed one of little Shinsu's hands and smeared his face with a big, slobbery kiss. He didn't get angry at all, as if he was used to it. Wiping the drool from his face, he patted my little head and said with a smile, "Wait until Big Brother finishes wrapping the zongzi, then I'll cook them for you to eat." The scorching sunlight filtered through the branches as the little boy peeled the cooked zongzi and fed it bit by bit to the baby girl in the woman's arms. The gears of fate began to turn once more. Extra story 2, behind the corner. The man in the gray suit watched the scene with satisfaction before turning to leave, hands clasped behind his head, swaggering away with an air of utter disregard. Not bad, not bad, worth wasting an S-rank reward for this.